Shall we start within 2 minutes, Swamiji? We shall wait
Yeah.
for 2.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, Swamiji, you're audible. Kiran, is Swamiji audible? Is it fine? Yeah, fine. Within 2 minutes, we shall start.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I request everyone to start with Sahana Bhavatu. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastuma Vitvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our master and the founder of Sri Satya Sai University for Human Excellence, Sadguru Madhusudan Sai, who is the personification of His Divine Grace, Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. My respectful obeisance to Swamiji and my respectful greetings to all the students. We as a university are very fortunate that in the backdrop of this pandemic, we could finish our first semester classes in physical mode rather than in a hybrid mode or a virtual mode. We could complete it in a physical mode with effectiveness. We were so fortunate this semester, especially the previous semester, that all our Paravidya classes, Aparavidya classes, and all our other activities happened so nicely with the grace of God. And this year, this new semester, that is second semester for undergraduation of Satya Sai University, we are starting with our Tattva Bodha classes, and today we have our own Swami Shanti Vratananda ji. We all know Swami Shanti Vratananda ji. Last year he was there with us. He took few classes of Manisha Panchakam also for our students, and he was the first to initiate the words of wisdom of university's initiative, which has grown so well today. Today, so many distinguished speakers have come and spoken in the forum, and we also have gained a lot of experience with this words of wisdom session. And Swami Shanti Vratananda ji was our first speaker. He was our own. He's our own. He's constantly guiding us in all our matters of the university and so many other things. There's a brief intro about Swami Shanti Vratananda ji. He's the monk of Ramakrishna Order. Currently, he's serving as minister in charge in Vedanta Society, Ireland. He has undergone 2 years of intense training at headquarters of Ramakrishna Order, that is Ramakrishna Mutt, Belur, West Bengal. Swamiji stood first during his post-graduation at Bangalore University, and he was awarded gold medal. And University of Mysore has awarded doctorate for his doctoral thesis, which is titled like this: Swami Vivekananda's Concept of Man, an Analytical Study. Swamiji was called from different universities to present paper. He participated in Rashtriya Sanskrit Academy, University of Tirupati, Saurashtra University, University of Rajkot, University of Mysore, Kuempu University, and many other universities. Has also traveled for different places at Karnataka to address youths, spiritual aspirants, and teacher educators. He has addressed more than 1 lakh people on personality development, Indian culture, stress management, Indian philosophy, scriptures, education, philosophy, and etc. He has contributed more than 50 research articles to reputed journals. Swamiji regularly contribute articles as a columnist to Vijayvani under the title Antaranga column, Vachanamruta in Prajavani, and Shakti Sanjeevani in Hosadiganta, and Bodhi Vruksha in Vijay Karnataka newspapers. He has participated in several panel discussions conducted by Kannada News One channel. His talks on religion and spirituality is broadcasted by Sri Bhakti channel, Power TV channel regularly. And Swamiji is very passionate. I had few occasions to interact with him. I draw a lot of inspiration from him. The kind of work he's doing through Vedanta, through Ramakrishna Mission is inspiring for all of us. It's a matter of emulation to all these students to become like Swamiji. Over to you, Swamiji. Thanks for accepting and starting our new session. I think this is the first class of the new session. That too, it's great that they're starting with Prakarana Grantha, that is Tattva Bodha of Adi Shankaracharya. Sairam. Over to you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Thank you, Chidambar, for your beautiful, wonderful introduction. Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My dear blessed spiritual aspirants, it is indeed, I am very happy to address all of you on the Tattvabodha text for probably around 10 classes, if God wills, if God willing. In India, we are so fortunate people. We belong to Sanatana Dharma, and we belong to Sanatana Samskruti, and we belong to Sanatana Bhumi, that is Bharata. Why? Because it is the land of born philosophers. In the entire country or in the entire world, we don't come across, except India, where we have got so much scriptures and the wonderful and the best philosophy. In the empirical science, till they are yet to find out from that one substance, from that one particle, from which the whole world is made up of. They said matter, they went atom, then they went protons, nucleons, electrons, nucleus, electrons, photons, so and so, so and so, but still they are unable to. Am I audible?
Actually, yes, Swamiji. Like I am able to listen. I think boys are able to listen.
Some said not audible, Swami.
Yeah,
sorry?
you're audible, Swamiji. You're audible. You can go ahead.
Okay. So they are gone saying it may be something, etc., etc. It is like hypothetical arguments. But whereas in the Advaita philosophy, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic philosophy, we are able to reach the pinnacle of the truth, saying that yes, by understanding one, or by that we are able to, the whole world, myself, the whole world, the whole creation has come out from that. It has been emerged from that. That is what? That is Atman or Brahman. It is precisely Brahman, from which everything else has emerged. Matter, mind, energy, whatever you want to say, everything has come from that. So the ultimate truth for which the empirical science is struggling to find out, thousands of years before, our philosophers, our science, galaxy of science have found out the truth, and they have dedicated their life and all in finding out, and also in imparting that highest philosophy, the subtlest philosophy for all of us. Hence, I believe we belong to the Sanatana Dharma and that Sanatana Bhumi, India. Definitely, we are fortunate enough. But just merely if we go on saying that we are fortunate enough, we are fortunate enough, it doesn't suffice. It isn't enough. It is not enough. We have to understand how really we are blessed, how our ancient seers have given the wonderful truth. Until otherwise we know, consciously will not be able to feel happy about it, proud about it. And also, if someone asks, how is it so? Then definitely we'll not be able to. For an example, how it happens. A small girl had come. Their parents are from India, but that small girl, probably she's of 6 years or 7 years, she's born and brought up in Ireland. Because they're from Indian origin, they came, they all did pranam to Sri Ramakrishna, Mother Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda and all. And that small child, he was speaking with me. Then he showed towards Buddha's statue in our ashrama, and she asked, who is he? Then I said, he's Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha? Who is he? What is he? She asked. And the other side, there was also Christ photo. Then I said, oh, is a God. He descended on this earth to save the mankind, to show the path for the mankind. He's one of the greatest philosophers, and also he was the greatest monk, etc. While I was narrating this, the moment when I told her that, oh, he's a God who has descended on this earth to save the mankind, immediately she said, though she belongs to Hindu faith, Sanatana Dharma faith, she immediately said, oh, is he like Christ, the messenger of God? See, from her inception, from her beginning itself, because she's studying in a Christian school, she's comparing all our deities to Christianity and Christian God. And whereas, unfortunately, in India, belong to the Sanatana Dharma, we are not able to give our own Hinduism to our own youngsters, to our own Indians, and to our own Hindus. And from this point, according to me, we were all really blessed and fortunate enough to understand the rich spiritual, cultural heritage of our Sanatana Dharma, India. Having said this, let us go to the now text, Tattva Bodha. Now, what is this Tattva Bodha? Tattva Bodha is called Prakarana Grantha. It is called introductory text or preliminary text. So why should we study Tattva Bodha like this preliminary text? Can't we study directly? Can't we enter ourselves directly to Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads or Brahma Sutra, the logical treatise on Advaita Vedanta? The traditions and our gurus, the teachers, they say no. Why? Because for every system of thought, school of thought, there's a systematic study. There's a systematic thinking. Say, for an example, if you have studied Nyaya philosophy, the Indian logic, they say we have got padarthas, and among the padarthas, substance, we roughly translate into English. And in a padartha, we have got dravya, we have got guna, and we have got sambandha, samavayi sambandha, asamavayi sambandha, etc., etc. We may get the English translations for that Sanskrit words. We may get Kannada translations or any of our vernacular language translations for the equivalent word. But actually, we don't understand what do they mean. When they say padartha, we say substance. And Kannada, whoever knows Kannada, padartha means immediately we understand what it is. Generally, something comes to our mind because in Karnataka, in Kannada, we use that word. But it's the same meaning, even the Nayayikas, the logivish or logic people who belong to the system of thought, school of thought of Indian logic, do they use in the similar way or in the similar meaning? No. There's a lot of difference between, in the layman's language, we use the word padartha with respect to Kannada, and the people, the Nayayikas, they use. So it is a technical name, it is called. So in Sanskrit, it is called Paribhashika Shabda. And I'll give one more easy example for you. In Bhagavad Gita, Uddared Atman Atmanam Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Atmano Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaham. This is the Bhagavad Gita shloka. The second line, it says that Atmaiva Bandhu. The Atman is the literal translation. If you say Atman is the real Bandhu, Atman is the real enemy. So what do they mean? How the Atman can be real enemy for me and the Atman can be really friend of me? Because I am that Atman. Aham Brahmasmi, we say. How is it? There, the Atman word refers to mind, not the Atman, actually the Atman. How do we understand this? When we study scriptures in a systematic manner with the guidance of guru or a reputed teacher, qualified teacher. So there Atmaiva Bandhu, Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha means my mind is real friend of me, my mind is really a real enemy of me. How can my mind be, again, the question comes, how it can be the real friend and real enemy? Because I knew that I have got a close friend and I knew some neighbor or someone who had created a trouble for me, he or she had considered that enemy for me. But how can I be real friend of me? Okay, somewhat I can understand. Then how to understand that I am the real enemy of myself? Then here we need a guru and systematic study, systematic thinking. When my mind is under my control, when I've got a control of mind, then I can say my mind is a real friend of me. When I'm not have a control on myself, when my mind is not under my control, then that means what? My mind is a real enemy for myself. So like this, there are a lot of terminologies, paribhashika shabdas, which we don't understand simply. So for that, we have to do systematic study. Just like in the degree or PUC, who have taken a science, you study calculus, you study thermodynamics, you study analytical geometry, you study trigonometry. To understand that, you have to start from first standard, 1 + 1, 2. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand things. Maybe theory of calculus, even for that matter. So similarly, these are the different step-by-step way. By systematic study, we'll be able to understand the philosophy in a right perspective. For an example, after studying Bhagavad Gita and few Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, you'll be able to understand what is the system, what is the scheme, what is the plan of teaching of Advaita Vedanta. If I ask for any one of you, you might have read few Bhagavad Gita chapters, you might have studied one or two Upanishads, maybe a portion of Brahma Sutra. Definitely I'll be knowing, I'm sure, I'm certain, you will not be able to tell what it is. Why? Until otherwise you understand the Advaita Vedanta in reality to its core, will not be able to deduce that. The scheme is Adhyaropa Apavada. This is the scheme accepted by, followed by all the Advaitic teachers. What is this Adhyaropa? What is Apavada? Adhyaropa is superimposition. Apavada is desuperimposition. Just like they give a very common example, very loose example, like small children, they build a castle, they build a house in the mud, in the soil, we're playing. And when their parents or teachers, when their parents, they call, simply without anything, without thinking a next thought, immediately they collapse the house or the small house or the castle made from the soil. They collapse it, they break it, and they go away. If they were supposed to break that house, for 1 or 2 hours, they spent their time, and why did they bring it? Why did they build it? But for children, definitely it will not be an answer. So similarly, the Advaita Vedanta understands what is the final truth of the Advaita Vedanta. Aham Brahmasmi or Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. The Brahman and Brahman alone exists, nothing else. This is the final truth, final dictum of Advaita Vedanta. We may hear, but we may not understand. How is it so? How to understand? How to comprehend this subtle truth? If you ask, definitely it will be difficult for us. That's why our ancient rishis, teachers, they understood from the aspirant, from where he is standing, from there we have to start a spiritual journey, intellectual journey. So for us, the world is real. The world is a fact, a matter of fact. The Brahman or Atman may be real or may not be real, but for us, the world is real. So even the Advaita Vedantins also, for that matter, they will consider, okay, let the world be real. And they will start explaining what is the world and who is the creator. Because the moment we accept this world, it comes to our mind how this world was created. Did it by accident, by its own, or someone created it? So what is the cause, source, reason for its creation? We have to understand. And the third, we are trying to understand, who am I? What is my nature? Before my birth, where was I? After my death, where will I go? What is my reality? What is my real nature? So any philosophy for that matter, they discusses 3 points. One is who am I? That is Jiva or living being. They try to discuss. The second is world, the empirical world which we see. Either the 14 worlds also you can take. The Loka, we say. Who is and the third is God. So one is God, the other is world, and the third is self, individual self. The 3 nature and the 3 relationships, that's what the whole philosophy tells. Either you take Advaita, you take Dvaita, you take Vishishtadvaita, or you take Nyaya, you take Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Purvamimamsa, Vedanta. All philosophies, even for that matter, Jaina, Bauddha, and Charvaka, all of them, they are trying to discuss only 3 things. So when you study deeply, these things will be able to understand. But initially will not be able to. Because the teachers have made already a deep study, detailed study, they'll be able to give in a nutshell. And they'll be able to build up our mind in a particular fashion so that we'll be able to study and understand Advaitic advanced text. That is the reason we have to get into the preliminary text. So one is what is philosophy? What philosophy covers these 3 angles of a triangle, like I've told. So you should keep this in mind. And why should we study preliminary text, introductory text like Tattva Bodha or any other, or like Vedanta Sara, Atma Bodha? Because it tries to understand, it tries to explain the terminologies, one, and second thing, it tries to build up the systematic thinking pertaining to particular philosophy. So what is the scheme here involved in the Advaita Vedanta? I said Adhyaropa Apavada. Superimposition, de-superimposition. From wherever we are there, from there, the author or our saints, our gurus, they take us slowly to the source. So from this point, I would like to tell, intellectually, generally we have a progression at 4 steps. The first, very preliminary, the basic is among the mankind. They may belong to any religion, any culture, any society. They say there is no abstract concept. They don't believe in any abstract concepts, suprasensual concept like God or self. They only believe in the world. The world exists. Let me have a merrymaking. Let me enjoy the world. Let me work and let me enjoy the world. That's it. This is the first step. Materialistic philosophers, we can say Charvakas. The second is, they may say, maybe there may be abstract concept like God or Atman or self, but the world is very real for us. The world is very palpable. I'm able to enjoy. I'm able to experience. So that's why the world is real. There may be abstract concept like the eternal entity you call soul or spirit or Brahman or Atman or God, whatever you say. This is the second step of the evolution in our thinking, in our knowledge process. The third process is, they believe, the people belong to this third process, they believe in the abstract concept, in the existence of soul, Atman or Brahman, God. And for them, the world is also exists, but they're not very sure about whether it is real or unreal, or whether it is an appearance or an illusion, etc., etc. Then the fourth point, the fourth level, the top level is, they understand, yes, the God and the God alone is real, and the world is unreal, or it is an appearance, or it is an illusion. So to reach that fourth stage, we have to start from our first stage. Some of us, we might be in the first stage, some of us may be in the second stage, some of us may be in the third stage, but all of our goal is to reach the fourth stage, to understand the God and God alone exists, or the Atman or the Brahman alone exists, and everything is just an illusion or an appearance. For that, to have a paradigm shift in our mental outlook, in our knowledge outlook, knowledge perceiving, perception, we have to study this Advaita Vedantic text. So having told all these things, let us try to understand the Tattva Bodha. I am giving Tattva Bodha classes regularly on Thursday. Whoever wishes, they can go in the YouTube, Air Vedanta Society. If you go, there I have taken the text and I'm going in very detailed way. But since Chidambar was saying probably around 10 classes we should be able to try to finish it off or cover it. So I will not be going in a very detailed and in a very depth manner, but I will try to do the justification for the subject. And if you are anyone of you interested, you can log on to the Ayurvedanta Society YouTube channel and you can get more information from that. On the end of the session, if you have got any questions, I'll be very happy to answer your questions. And afterwards, I will try to share the PDF copy of this Tattvabodha text. If you don't have, please try to have the original text and try to know the Sanskrit text with the meaning. Then you'll be able to understand the text properly. Invocation song, prayer is there. I will chant. You can listen and you can mentally also repeat. Vasudevendra Yogindram. Vasudevendra Yogindram. Natva Gnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Itarthaya Tattvabodho Abhidhiyate. In our Indian tradition, generally all the texts, all the works are started with the Mangalacharana. Mangalacharana is the prayer which generally initially it has been written by the author. Why he writes that Mangalacharana? So this itself is a lot of discussions have happened in our Indian scriptures, and especially with the Nyayika text, if you take for pages after they discuss. Among them probably generally they do two reasons they will give. When you boil down all their arguments, you'll be able to understand two things. One is what? Vigna Nivarana, to remove all the adverse circumstances. One is that, and the second is to complete the work without any hurdles. These are the two reasons generally they have given. And this work, Tattvabodha text, is ascribed, or it is told that Adi Shankaracharya has written. But again, there's a confusion and also there's a lot of debate whether he is written or not. Why? Because if you see the Mangalacharana, they are saying Vasudevendra. The Guru's name is Vasudeva. And he is giving an adjective for Vasudeva, his Guru Vasudeva. Who is he? Yogindram, is the king of yogis. Natva. So having saluted to Sri Vasudeva, why have to salute him? He is my Guru. And what is he? Is the king of yogis. Is called Yatiraja. Just be like we say Swami Vivekananda. Yatiraja is telling Yogindram is the king of yogis, and Gnanapradam Gurum is the Guru, and he is the bestower of the Gnana. What Gnana? Does he give physics knowledge, chemistry knowledge, mathematics knowledge, arts knowledge? No. He is giving the ultimate knowledge that Aham Brahmasmi. Mumukshunam Hitarthaya. Now, why am I writing this Tattvabodha text? Mumukshunam Hitarthaya. Mumukshu. Moktum Micha Mumukshu. One who desires moksha is called Mumukshu. One who is desired after liberation is called Mumukshu. And for Mumukshunam, for the seekers after liberation, for the benefit Hitarthaya, for the benefit of the seekers after liberation, Tattvabodha, the work called Tattvabodha, Abhidhiyate, has been expounded. Now, the author is making a statement that I am saluting Sri Vasudeva. As we all know, Adi Shankaracharya's Guru is not Vasudeva. Then how can you tell that this work is written by Adi Shankaracharya? But the people tell it is Govinda Bhagavat Pada. So for Govinda, there is a synonym called Vasudeva. Instead of saying Govinda Bhagavat Pada, because we should not say Guru's name, so that's why Adi Shankaracharya used the word Vasudeva. And who is Yogindra? Yogindra is nothing but his Guru, and also we can tell Gitacharya is a Yogindra. So that's what the Pandits, people, they say that no, Vasudeva means it is a Govinda Bhagavat Pada only. So because Shishya is not supposed to tell his Guru's name directly, so he's used the word synonym for Govinda, that is Vasudeva. So that is the reason it is told by, it is written by Adi Shankaracharya only. Anyhow, it is a matter of debate. We will not go into it. Now, this Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodha Abhidhiyate, when the line we hear, immediately whoever studied Advaita Vedanta systematically, traditionally, if anyone of you, will be able to understand Anubandha Chatushtaya has been told here. What is this Anubandha Chatushtaya? Anubandha Chatushtaya means we have got four things. When you read all these things only, you will be able to understand how beautiful and how systematic our scriptures are. Sometimes when we study Bertrand Russell, when we study Wittgenstein, when we study John Locke, when you study probably phenomenalism, idealism, realism, and Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, we feel, oh, they are all beautiful philosophers. Unfortunately, we didn't have such a philosopher. We feel that. Many people argue that. But unfortunately, I pity them because they have not studied Indian philosophy properly, I only say. Because the moment when we study Indian philosophy rightfully, we'll be able to understand how beautiful, scientific, systematic of thought and of expounding the text. What is the Anubandha Chatushtaya? Anubandha Chatushtaya is the thing which it tells about the book. For an example, in the olden tradition, if I am supposed to write a book, I was supposed to tell who is the fit person to study this book. Adhikari, we say. Anubandha Chatushtaya. Chatushtaya means four. Anubandha, related with the book. What is that? Four things are there. Chatushtaya, four. First is Adhikari. Adhikari means who is fit as person. For what? To study this book. So the author is supposed to tell who is the fit person to study this book. This is Adhikari. Then the second is Vishaya. I may be Adhikari to study this book. I may not be interested with the topic. For an example, Harry Potter. There I'm seeing so many people, they're mad after Harry Potter. But I did read few pages. Afterwards, I felt our mythology, the rich mythology is better than this. Then I thought, I felt and I closed the Harry Potter book. That's a beautiful book. I'm able to understand the Harry Potter book, no doubt, but I'm not interested. That's the reason the author is supposed to tell what is the theme of this book, what is the topic of the book, what is the subject I'm going to discuss in the book. So author is to declare in the beginning itself, it seems. So that is called Vishaya. And the third is Sambandha. I am fit person to study this book, fine. I am also interested in this book, fine. The third is Vishaya, Sambandha, how it is related to me. Now, Harry Potter, for an example, again, I will take the Harry Potter. Some of you might be interested. You are able to understand, fine. But how are you linked with that? How I am linked with this subject? So that also has to be told by the author in its inception, in the beginning of the book. The fourth is Prayojana. Prayojanam anuddishya mandopina pravartate. The Sanskrit phrase is there. Without a use, even the fool will not work, will not take up any action. So what is I am going to get? For an example, why should I study calculus? Apart from passing my exam, PUC exam or degree exam, why should I study calculus? Definitely we don't think, because there is syllabus, teacher tells and I study and I write exam. We don't tell. But see, in our ancient system, so these four parts supposed to be declared by the author in the beginning itself. So mumukshunam hitarthaya tattvabodha abhidhiyate, in the one line, whole Anubandha Chatushtaya has been told. That is the intelligency of our Indian teachers. In a nutshell, in a formula form, in a capsule form, they were able to tell the whole thing. So mumukshunam hitarthaya, for the benefit of seekers after liberation, I'm writing the book. That means what? That means what? Who is a adhikari here? Here mumukshus. One who wishes to have liberation, he is the fit person, adhikari, to study Tattvabodha. Okay, I am not interested in the moksha or mukti. Then definitely I am not a fit person, adhikari, to study this book. And what is the Vishaya? Tattvabodha Vishaya. What is called Tattvabodha? Tattva means reality, bodha means knowledge. Means what is the subject matter of this book? It is Tattvabodha. Again, it is also a title of the book. So what is Tattvabodha? Means it is nothing but the knowledge of reality, knowledge on reality, knowledge on truth. What truth? Ultimate truth. Who am I? Vishaya, Sambandha. What is the relationship between the subject matter and me? It is about you only, Appa. It is only about you. So it has been discussed about me only. Who am I? So I am actually, so they are trying, the author is trying to discuss about me. Who am I in reality? Then prayojana, mumukshunam hitartha tattvabodha abhidhiyate. What is the prayojana? What is the use by studying this book? What do I get? My ignorance will be removed. I will understand who am I because of the knowledge, attaining the knowledge about the ultimate reality, about the ultimate truth. My ignorance gets destroyed. So that Anubandha Chatushtaya has been told in the beautifully in the just one single line in the Mangalacharana itself. And here Gnanaprada, how Guru can be Gnanaprada, it can be discussed in detail. Natva, why should I show respect to Guru and why should I prostrate to Guru? All these things people may ask, oh, so is it not against the self-dignity, all these things? So all these things can be discussed in a detail when time is there. But already I've told, just I will be going in a nutshell form. So I'll be going to the next thing, next sloka. Now, after telling this, generally, if you see in the Gita Upanishads, it is in the form of shlokas. Generally, if you see in the Indian scriptures, most of our teachings are in the form of shlokas, in the form of mantras, in the form of poems, because it is easy to remember. Whereas if you see the logical treatise on Advaita Vedanta or on Vedanta, that is Brahma Sutra, that is in the form of sutras, in the form of formula. In Tattvabodha text, the author, what is the style he has taken to teach? In the question and answer form, but in the prose form. Question and answer, but in prose form. Because for you see, if you see in the Kenopanishad, even there is a question answer form, but it is in a poem style. But whereas in the Tattvabodha text, it is a question and answer, but it is in the prose form. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikaranam Moksha sadhana bhutam tattva viveka prakaram vakshayamaha. This is the first thing he is making to tell. What is that? Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikarina. Who is adhikari? Mumukshu I told already, but I want to tell in detail who is adhikari actually for to study Advaita Vedanta. So sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. One who is endowed with sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, fourfold qualifications. One who is endowed with fourfold qualifications. Saha adhikari. He is adhikari. Moksha sadhana bhutam. Tattva viveka prakaram vakshyamaha. Means that is the mode of, that is the means of moksha sadhana bhutam, means it is the means of liberation. Tattva viveka prakaram. Tattva viveka prakaram means the mode of discrimination. Vakshamaha, I shall explain now. Means for attaining liberation, mumukshunam, he already told, for mumukshu, the first and foremost, the step is he has to endow with the fourfold qualifications. That is called sadhana chatushtaya. One who has got sadhana chatushtaya, he is called adhikari to study Advaita Vedanta. So it is the path of knowledge that we should keep it in mind. So here the author is saying that one should have sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, he is adhikari. So what is sadhana chatushtaya sampanna? Fourfold qualifications I am going to tell. And why should I have these fourfold qualifications? Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. Do I get something promotion in my life, or my bank balance gets increased? Why should I get it? This means it is because it is the means of liberation. Moksha sadhana bhutam. It is the means of liberation. How? Tattva viveka prakaram. The mode of discrimination on the truth. What is real? What is unreal? So discrimination of the truth. Vakshyamaha, I shall explain. Now, sadhana chatushtayam kim. So after telling this, so author has started the question. So I already told sadhana chatushtaya. One should have a sadhana chatushtaya. He is called adhikari. So then you may get a question. Then what is sadhana chatushtaya? What are the fourfold qualifications? Sadhana chatushtayam kim. What are the fourfold qualifications? Then he is saying nitya, anitya, vastu vivekaha. Iha, first fourfold qualifications. First qualification is nitya, anitya, vastu vivekaha. The capacity to discriminate between the eternal and non-eternal things. Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivekaha. The capacity to discriminate between the permanent thing and impermanent thing. That's what I mean to say, discrimination. So probably if you cannot able to understand, I mean, remember all these things. So just you keep the one word simply because I'm going to tell 4 Ds now. So this will be the 1 D that is called discrimination. And the second is Iha Amutra Phalabhoga Viragaha. Dispassion towards the enjoyment fruits of one's own action here, means in this empirical world, the world where we are living, and hereafter. The above 7 worlds are the below 7 worlds also. I don't want any worldly enjoyments, either in this world, whatever is available, or in the above 7 worlds, or in the below 7 worlds. I don't want anything. So the dispassion towards the worldly enjoyments. So first is discrimination, I said. The second is dispassion, second D. The third is Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. 6 virtues, 6 accomplishments, 6 virtues or 6 accomplishments, beginning with the Shama. Shama, Dama, Tyaga, means Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhana, Shraddha. 6 virtues, 6 disciplines, mental disciplines we are supposed to have. And the fourth is Mumukshatvam cha iti. And the fourth one is yearning for liberation, seeking after liberation. So one is discrimination, the second is dispassion, the third is discipline, the fourth is desire. We should not have desires, you said in the second one. Yes, the fourth is desire. Desire for what? Desire for liberation. So the desire for liberation, moktum ichcha, is not considered as a desire from our scriptures. So that's why one who has endowed with these 4 things, one is discrimination between real and unreal, the second is dispassion towards the all worldly enjoyments and the above worldly enjoyments, and the third is discipline, having the 6 virtues, and the fourth is desire, intense desire for liberation. He is called Adhikari. He is the fit person to study Advaita Vedanta to get the liberation. Why? Because he has told in the Mangalacharana, in the introductory text, in the introductory sloka, that Mumukshuna Nitarthaya, for the benefit of, for the usefulness of Mumukshu, I have told. So means Moktum Ichcha, who can get the liberation? One who has got this 4-fold qualifications, they can get the moksha or mukti. So many times we may get a question, who have studied the Kathopanishad. When you study the Kathopanishad, the end, you will see that the Nachiketa gets Brahmagnana and he goes back, he comes back to the world. And in the ends of Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Nashto moha smutir labdha tatprasada and machuta. That's what Arjuna tells. Okay, after listening to your teachings, now all my delusion, wrong thinking has been shattered, has been destroyed, removed. Thank you, O Guru, Vasudeva, Achyuta, they say. But after hearing Bhagavad Gita, after hearing Kathopanishad, after hearing Isha Upanishad, after hearing Kena Upanishad, or any other Upanishads for that matter, still our ignorance has not been removed. Why? Because we are not fit persons. Means this 4-fold qualifications is not there in us. That is the reason we are not able to understand who am I, how much ever I may study. Whereas Uddalaka, when he said to Shvetaketu, when you have studied Brodhanik and Chandogya Upanishad, if you study, you'll be able to know this. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, like his father Uddalaka told to his son and disciple Shvetaketu 9 times, and he said, Hamasmi Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. Yes, he understood. He experienced. He had a view of the reality. Yes, I am that consciousness, bliss, and existence absolute. Satchitananda. Because he was a Uttama Adhikari. He was one of the best aspirant. That's the reason 9 times just he heard Tattvamasi Shvetaketu and he was able to understand it. He was able to realize it. He was able to experience. How many? 9,000 times, 9 lakh times even we hear sometimes. For some of us, we are not able to hear, understand, or we are not able to experience. Why? Because we are not Uttama Adhikaris. Means we are not endowed with this 4-fold qualifications. Now again, the other things. What is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna? Who is Adhikari? One who is endowed with Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna, 4-fold qualifications, he is Adhikari, we said. And what is Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna? Again, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. Doesn't even explain. So what do you mean by Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka? What is Nitya and what is Anitya and what is Viveka? So this question you may get for any spiritual aspirant or for a student. That's why now the author is taking over. Next question is Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha. What is meant by the discrimination between the eternal and the ephemeral things? So what do you mean by discrimination between real and unreal, eternal and ephemeral? The author himself explains Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. So what is Nitya? Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. Nityastva Ekam Brahma is there. If you break it, the Sandhi, Uno Sandhi will be able to. Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma Tad Vyatiriktam. Apart from that, Sarvam Anityam. Everything is unreal, ephemeral. Ayameva Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. And this conviction, Ayameva, this conviction itself is Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha, discrimination between the eternal and the ephemeral, or reality and the appearance. Means Brahman alone, Atman alone is true, Brahman alone is true, and everything else is just an appearance. Or they say, here it is unreal, Anitya, impermanent. So everything is impermanent, and this conviction is the discrimination between the eternal and the ephemeral. Now the question may come, how is it only I am eternal, they are saying, and everything else is uneternal and everything else is temporary? Oh, it is mind-boggling. It is head-boggling. How to understand this? Probably you may get a question, because I'm seeing some of the students are making notes. That itself shows, including Chidamba, that itself shows that they are serious in the class, they are serious in their learning. But some of the time I see some students are saying here and there, oh, they are making me to sit, okay, I'm sitting, I may not be interested. I'm not very serious about it. It is your time, it is your life, it is up to you to decide what you are supposed to do. Anyhow, so you may feel a question, how to understand that I am alone is true, Brahman alone is true, they are saying, and the world is an appearance, and except Brahman, everything is an appearance. How to understand this? What makes them to make such type of statements? The question may come, definitely, if you follow the arguments, definitely. For Advaita Vedanta, the base is, if any person or if any entity, if any substance is Nitya, that means it is called Trikala Abhadita Satya. If I have to tell any word Nitya, or if I have to tell anything as a Satya, that is truth, real, then it should be Trikala Abhadita. Means it should be there hundreds of years before. Yes, it was there. Thousands years before. Yes, it was there. 10,000 years before. Yes, it was there. Millions of years before. Yes, it was there. And past, present. Yes, it is there now also. And future, after 100 years, yes, it is there. It will be there. After 10,000 years, yes, it will be there. After a million years, yes, it will be there. Then only we accept it as a Nitya or Satya. For example, 40 or 50 years before, I was not there. Now, yes, I am there. After 50 years or 40 years or 30 years, I am there. After 50 or 100 years, I am not there. That means what? I am not Nitya. So Swami Shantivratananda cannot be called as a Nitya. Why? Because he is there at given point of time only. Before that, before some point of time, he was not there. After some point of time, he will not be there. So he is not called as, he is not considered as, or he cannot be considered as Nitya. So similarly, on this world, for example, you are sitting in the building. That building, some years before, yes, it was not there. It was a vacant land. Afterwards, let God is gracious. Let there be God is gracious. Let not happen. For due to some natural calamity, the building gets collapsed. After some years, 100 years or 500 years, or after 1,000 years. We cannot say that after 1,000 years, the building will be in the same state. No, it cannot be. It might get collapsed because of natural calamity. That means what? The building where I am staying, it also cannot be Nitya or Satya. So for Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic philosophy, anything it has to be Satya or Nitya, means permanent thing, it should be Trikala Abhadita. It should not be affected by time and space causation. So for that matter, the consciousness, what else we say, are absolute existence, Sat, absolute consciousness, that is Chit, and absolute bliss, that is Ananda, Satchidananda, that is the nature of the Atman or Brahman. So that alone exists. Everything else is impermanent because at some point of time it projects, it has got created. After some point of time, it will be no more. That's why Atman alone is true and everything else is illusory or an appearance, or here they're using the word Anitya, that is impermanent, means ephemeral. And what is Vairagya? Viraga, dispassion. Iha sarva bhogeshu icha rahityam. The absence of desire for the enjoyment of the fruits of one's actions in this world and also in the other world. Okay, I did so much work. I want results. And I did so much. I organized a beautiful event in my college, in my university. Oh, everyone clapped at me. I felt very happy. And I took so much pain to organize the event, but even for just a courtesy's sake, they didn't acknowledge that I did a work. I feel very morose. That means what? I'm expecting either I should be considered, I should be acknowledged. That is what experiencing the fruits of action. No, I should not be. As a duty I have done, whether they acknowledge or they don't acknowledge, I should not bother. I'm not bothered. I'm not interested in the fruits of action because I'm not interested in the experiencing the world. I mean, rather enjoying the world. I am busy or I'm interested to know myself. That's the reason I don't want any karma phala, fruits of action. Why? Because the moment I desire for it, then it binds me. So in the coming classes, I will take the two other more 6 virtues. What are the 6 virtues and what is mumukshatva? And we will try to discuss in the forthcoming classes. Let me know whether you were be able to understand this thing, whether was it a fast or you were able to understand first point. Second thing, if you got any questions till now, whatever I've explained, I'm ready to answer. And apart from that, anything related to religion, philosophy, spirituality also, I am ready to answer your questions. Feel free to ask the questions either in Kannada or English or Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Bengali. You can ask in any language.
Thank you, Swamiji. As you said, we are very fortunate in order to understand Advaita Vedanta so systematically. Even as classes were happening, I was feeling so happy that so systematically I'm able to study. These 8 to 9, I could have spent it in some other way, but it's a grace of God, grace of all gurus that all of us were systematically studying Advaita Vedanta. And definitely I'll pass on the feedback form. I'll get the feedback from both boys and girls on the classes, on the conduction, how it's happening. And there are a few questions they've asked out of context also.
Yeah.
So should I tell them or shall we take it?
Yeah.
Okay. So first I'll tell them. What's the difference between Samadhana and Titiksha of Sadhana Chatushtaya? This was the question.
Samadhana and Titiksha. Okay, I will come when I take the Sadhana Chatushtaya, I'll be able to explain. Is it okay? Or you want me to tell now only?
No. That's what.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
How to follow Viveka, Nitya, Anitya Viveka into day-to-day activities. And as you were speaking, Swamiji, the students were asking, how to make this conviction strong?
Yeah, by following it again, like every time I get a desire to enjoy something, so I should be able to discriminate. I should, exercise my discrimination, whether it is real or unreal. It is not real. For example, I desired for a chocolate, I ate for chocolate, and I till the tip of the tongue or till going near the throat, probably fine. After once it goes, it is not there. And why should I spend so much time for that? So whenever I think it is real or unreal, I should keep on discriminating. Exercising the discrimination is the only path to make more and more conviction in this.
This is a question from our Vedic studies students of Mudanali campus.
Yeah.
Swamiji, we have heard a statement called Mano Moolam Idam Jagat. So is liberation all about the mindset?
Yes, definitely.
Is liberation
because
all
I am already, because according to Advaita Vedanta, the moksha is not attainable. It is not apya. In the Brodhanika, if you study, there they say, moksha is not apya. It is not attainable. Vikarya, it is not changeable like something product. And samskarya, it is not refined. Apya, Samskarya, Vikarya, and one more thing is they tell, I'm not able to recall the fourth one. So moksha is not attainable because for Advaita Vedantins, the followers of non-dualistic philosophy, if something has to be attained means he or she doesn't have. If it is not mine, if I don't have, definitely I cannot have really, in reality. That means what? Moksha is not attainable. It is only removal actually. So what is that? The removal of ignorance. Ajnana nivrutti itself is the moksha, that's all. So the removal of ignorance is the only called, we say, moksha actually. But in a normal, when a speaking language, because of the, what do you say, limitations of a language, we use moksha should be attained, liberation should be attained, we should get the Atmagnana, we say that. But in reality, in the truest sense, in the strict sense, so moksha is not attained, Atmagnana is not attained, only it is removed the ignorance. So from that point, yes.
One more question. It said that after realization, karmas are destroyed, but do our prarabdha and vasanas continue to act upon us?
Yeah. Now, here, all our vasanas, the moment when we get a moksha, definitely at that stage, all our vasanas will be burnt out. In yoga, it is beautifully told, it is called Dagda Bija Avastha. It is called Dagda Bija Avastha. Dagda Bija Avastha is a roasted seed like. That means what? All our desires are burned out. So we don't have any desires, that we don't have any vasanas there. So that is out of question. And Advaita Vedanta and our scriptures and all our gurus, they have told, once you get a moksha or mukti, or I mean, again it is a for speaking language only, we say, means once our ignorance is removed, what happens to us? Our in karma phala, it is, I mean, based on the thing, it has been, I mean, what do you say? It is compartmentalized as a three things. One is agami karma, the second is prarabdha karma, the third is sanchita karma. Agami karma means after my doing, the fruits of action which I'm going to get, means it depends on my further action, I mean, new actions, agami karma, which is I'm going to get. Prarabdha karma is which I'm enjoying or suffering on the based on my earlier actions, prarabdha. And sanchita is, there is a store in my account, there is something stored prarabdha karma, stored fruits of action. That is what prarabdha. So when the moment I get moksha, the sanchita karma gets destroyed, and there will be no more agami karma. And but the till end of the prarabdha karma, my body has to sustain. Body will live. Just like Prabhu, I'll give an example. I have got a 10,000 rupees. Because I was working, I got 10,000 rupees, and 10,000 rupees is in my account. And I withdrew 3,000 rupees. I have withdrawn from 3,000 rupees from my bank account. Now 3,000 rupees I have got with me. Till finishing 3,000 rupees, I can enjoy or I can purchase anything. So till 3,000 finishing, then only I will be able to, I mean, take anything. Otherwise, I will not be able to. So that's what prarabdha karma. Now 7,000 is there in my bank account. That is what sanchita karma. Now I've been removed from the job. So since I have been removed from the job, I'm not going to do new job. Till I do a new job, I'm not getting any new income. That is what agami karma. Just to understand in the layman's language, I'm putting it. So for a realist person, there will be no agami karma. Sanchita karma will be destroyed, but he has to finish his prarabdha karma. Till he's finishing prarabdha karma, he has to leave, means his body has to live in this world.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think these were the questions for today. I request students. So I think Wednesday we don't have no Swamiji class.
No, I have got some other programs like Youth Day, since it has got so few other
Fine,
programs.
Yeah. I'll talk with you and fix the schedule next time. I think next Monday we'll be having classes because there are many seekers from Turiya Vedanta Society who have joined us for this session. For the sake of those and all for the information of all these students, we will. I will fix the timings with Swamiji and I'll let you know when are the next classes. So this is a 10 hours course, and also Swamiji, I spoke to our registrar. This course is included as a part of our Bharata Darshana. Instead of Bhaja Govindam, we will be having Tattva Bodha in our second semester. So I request students to take it seriously also, not only philosophically, even academically, it's very relevant for them. Thank you so much. We will end this session with the same Sahana Vrata. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you so much, Sarah.